There's an Amish diesel generator in a workshop outside Millersburg, Ohio that has been running since 1978, 46 years. Same engine, same oil in the crankcase, and the man who owns it has never paid for an oil change. Not one. Not ever. He spends about $2 a year keeping that engine alive. $2. The formula is in his grandfather's notebook. Learned from a German mechanic, Lancaster County, before the Second World War. I am 58 years old. I spent 40 years handing over receipts at quick-lubes just like you did. Then I met an Amish man named Eli on a porch in Holmes County, and everything I thought I knew about motor oil fell apart. Stay with me to the end, because I am going to show you the exact formula, 3 ingredients, $2 a year that you can pour into your own engine this weekend. Whether you drive a 2014 Silverado, an old F-150, or a Camry with 200,000 miles on the odometer, you already have everything you need sitting in your driveway tonight. You do not need a new car. You do not need a garage. You just need to know what the oil industry stopped advertising somewhere between 1968 and the year the Quick Lube sticker landed on your windshield. Let me take you back to the moment this whole thing cracked open for me. I had just written a check for $412 because my mechanic told me my engine had sludge and needed a flush, new oil, new filter, and something called a treatment package. I drove away feeling like I had done the responsible thing. 2 weeks later, I was sitting on a porch in Holmes County drinking coffee with Eli, an older man, hands like tree bark. He asked me what I had been up to. I told him about the $412. He did not laugh. He did not smirk. He just got up, walked into his shed, and came back with a mason jar. Inside that jar was a golden liquid. He held it up to the sun and said, "This is what my father used. This is what his father used." And the tractor out there in the field has been running on the same oil for 11 months. 11 months. I asked him if he was pulling my leg. He said, "No, son, I am not." He said the oil in a clean engine does not wear out the way the commercials tell you. What wears out is the additive package, the detergents, and the anti-wear compounds that get burned off or neutralized by combustion byproducts. Replace those additives, filter out the particles, and the base oil itself can last a very long time. He said his grandfather learned this from a machinist who worked on steam threshers in the 1920s. Back then, nobody threw oil away. Oil was expensive. Labor was cheap. So they filtered it, they replenished it, and they made it last. The formula Eli showed me that morning has 3 ingredients. Pure castor oil, a small amount of zinc dialkyldothiophosphate, which sounds terrifying but is the same compound found in almost every quart of motor oil sold before 2005. And a splash of refined lanolin, the same stuff that comes off sheep wool, $2 a year. That is the cost. A single bottle of castor oil from the farm supply store lasts him 3 seasons. The zinc additive he buys in a small tin that lasts even longer. The lanolin he renders himself from wool his wife spins. Now here is the uncomfortable part. The engineering reality is that in heavy-duty trucks today, oil drain intervals of 25,000 to 50,000 miles are achievable with proper filtration and oil analysis. That is documented. That is published. Go look it up on Machinery Lubrication right now. It is not a conspiracy. It is the industry's own data, and yet the sticker on your windshield says 3,000 miles. Why? Because fast lube chains that entered the market in the 1970s, most of them owned or supplied by major oil companies, built their entire business model around getting you to come back 4 times a year instead of once. The 3,000-mile sticker is the most successful marketing campaign in the history of automotive maintenance. Jiffy Lube finally dropped the recommendation in 2011 after a California class action lawsuit accused them of misleading consumers with it. You can pull up the court record yourself. So you are probably sitting there thinking, all right, but my engine is a 2014 Silverado, not a diesel generator from 1978. This does not apply to me. Stay with me. Because what I learned next is the part that nobody talks about on the automotive channels, and it is the reason your mechanic looks nervous when you ask too many questions. Every internal combustion engine, whether it is in a brand new crossover or a 40-year-old tractor, operates on the same basic principle. A piston moves up and down inside a cylinder, metal slides against metal, Oil creates a microscopic film that keeps those metal surfaces from touching. When that film breaks down, the engine wears out. Period. That is the whole game. The question is not whether you need oil. The question is whether you need to throw away 4 perfectly good quarts every 3,000 miles because somebody told you to. Here is what the Amish figured out and what the oil industry used to know but stopped advertising. The base oil itself, the actual slippery liquid, does not break down quickly under normal operating conditions. What breaks down is the additive package. Detergents neutralize acids formed by combustion. Anti-wear additives like zinc and phosphorus bond to metal surfaces and create a sacrificial layer that gets consumed over time. Viscosity modifiers keep the oil thick when hot and thin when cold. Once those additives are depleted or contaminated with particulates, the oil loses its protective properties. But the oil itself, the hydrocarbon chains at the heart of the product, is still perfectly capable of lubricating metal. This is not folk wisdom. It is the same principle that the U.S. Armed Forces built the Joint Oil Analysis Program on back in the 1960s. Pacific Intermountain Express, a trucking company, set up an in-house used oil analysis lab in 1958 for the same reason. The military and the big fleets figured out decades ago that you test the oil, replenish what is depleted, and keep running. They were never going to put that sticker on your windshield because that is not who the sticker was made for. So what does the Amish formula actually do? Let me walk you through it. The castor oil is the carrier. Castor oil has an unusual property among natural oils. It contains ricinoleic acid, which gives it exceptional film strength under high pressure. Castrol, the name comes from Castor, built its entire racing oil line on this stuff for decades. And race teams still use it in certain two-stroke and methanol applications because it simply refuses to be squeezed out from between metal surfaces. A word of honesty here. Castor oil is not a modern passenger car lubricant. It tends to gum up when it cools. That is why race engines that run on it get rebuilt often. What the Amish use it for, and what old-timers use it for, is a small additive splash into the main oil charge, not the whole sump. I am telling you what Eli told me. I am not telling you to pour a quart of castor oil into your Silverado. The zinc additive is what the industry calls ZDDP. It was the backbone of engine protection for 60 years. In the 1990s, the American Petroleum Institute reduced the phosphorus ceiling in motor oils to 1,200 parts per million to protect catalytic converters. In 2005, they cut it again to 800 parts per million, which is where we sit today. That change was real, and it was done to protect emissions equipment on modern vehicles, not because ZDDP stopped protecting engines. You can buy ZDDP concentrate at any classic car supply store for about $12 a bottle. One bottle treats multiple oil changes. The lanolin is the quiet genius of the whole mixture. Lanolin is naturally waxy and creates a barrier on metal surfaces that prevents moisture from causing rust during periods when the engine sits unused. For farm equipment that sits for weeks between uses, this is critical. For your car that sits in a driveway every night, it helps extend the life of cylinder walls and valve seats in ways that modern oils do not directly address. Now, if you already own a house and a vehicle and you are thinking this only applies to people building tractors from scratch, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. This is the section where everything changes for the ordinary driver sitting in an ordinary American garage. You do not need to become an Amish farmer to benefit from this. You do not need to filter your own oil through cheesecloth. What you need is a simple routine that most men can complete in their driveway on a Saturday morning with tools they already own. I call it the bridge method because it bridges the gap between what the Amish do on the farm and what you can do with a 2014 Silverado or a 2008 Camry sitting outside your kitchen window. Step 1. Instead of changing your oil every 3,000 miles, you extend your interval to 7,500 miles using full synthetic oil. AAA confirmed in their 2017 study that synthetic oil outperformed conventional oil by an average of 47% across 8 industry standard tests. That is the headline they put on their own press release. What they buried in the body was that most synthetic oils on the market today are rated for 10,000 to 15,000 miles under normal driving conditions. The 3,000-mile rule belongs to the era when Eisenhower was in office. The engineering reality is that a modern synthetic oil in a properly maintained engine can go much further than the sticker on your windshield suggests. Step 2. At the 4,000-mile mark, halfway through your extended interval, you add 1 ounce of ZDDP concentrate to the oil through the fill cap. $12 a bottle. 1 ounce per treatment. The bottle lasts you 2 or 3 years. This single step replenishes the anti-wear additives that have been depleted during the first half of the oil's life. Your engine now has fresh protection without a full oil change. Step 3. You keep a clean oil filter, you watch your oil level, and you stop throwing perfectly good oil in a bucket because a quick-lube kid in a grease-stained shirt told you to. That is it. $2 per treatment when you amortize the cost across multiple uses. No permits, no contractors, no trip to the mechanic. You can do this in your driveway in 15 minutes with a funnel and a measuring cup. I did this on my own truck for the first time in the fall of 2019. I was driving a 2011 F-150 with 140,000 miles on it. The engine was tired, it burned a quart of oil between changes, and the compression on cylinder 4 was noticeably low. My mechanic told me it was time to start thinking about a rebuild or a trade-in. I did neither. I started the bridge method in October of that year. By March of the following spring, the oil consumption had dropped by half. By the following fall, the compression on cylinder 4 had come back up within normal range. I now have 214,000 miles on that same truck. The engine runs quieter than it did at 100,000. Now let me answer the question you are already forming in your head. If this works so well, why is your mechanic not telling you about it? The answer is uncomfortable, but it is real. The average American household spends about $420 per year on oil changes. Multiply that by the roughly 120 million households in this country with a vehicle, and you are looking at a $50 billion annual industry. That industry employs hundreds of thousands of people. It funds advertising budgets that keep automotive media afloat. It pays for the research grants at universities that publish oil change recommendations. In 2011, a California class action lawsuit went after Jiffy Lube for pushing the 3,000-mile, 3-month interval as a general rule. Jiffy Lube dropped the recommendation in June of that year and finally told motorists to just follow the vehicle manufacturer's schedule. You can read the case record yourself, but the stickers never really left the windshields of America. Dealers still print them, auto parts stores still hand them out. The myth is more profitable than the truth, and the truth does not have a marketing budget. This is the part that should make you angry. Because while you were being told to come back every 3,000 miles, the Amish farmer down the road was running the same oil for a year and his engine was outlasting yours by a factor of 3. He was not hiding the knowledge, he just was not selling it. There is a difference. The Amish do not advertise. They do not have a trade association. They do not lobby Congress. They just quietly do what works. And they have been doing it for over 100 years. Eli told me something that first morning on his porch that I have never forgotten. He said, "The Englisher buys the answer from a stranger. The plain man keeps the answer in a jar on the shelf." I thought about that for a long time. How many answers have I bought from strangers in my life? How many jars on the shelf did my own grandfather keep that I never bothered to ask about? The old man had a workshop in his basement that I used to play in as a kid. He kept jars of things. Jars of nails, jars of screws, jars of mysterious golden liquids I never understood. He died in 1994 and all of those jars were thrown away. I wonder now what was in them. Before I give you the finale, one quick thing. Everything I have been digging out of these old notebooks and these farmhouse kitchens, the bridge method you just learned, the $3 bulb that outlives your grandchildren, the blanket stack that heats a bedroom with no furnace, the brown bottle in the medicine cabinet that quietly replaced 15 products your grandmother never needed, I have put it all in one place, room by room, season by season. In the order the families in Lancaster County and Holmes County actually use it, it is called the Amish Home System. Link is in the description. But stay right here, because what Eli's neighbor taught me in a Lancaster County kitchen in the spring of 2021 is the piece that turns the whole formula into something almost nobody in this country has heard of. So now you understand the foundation, you understand the formula, you understand the bridge method. But I promised you a secret finale, and I keep my promises. What I am about to share with you I learned in a farmhouse kitchen in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, during the spring of 2021. It is not from a university study. It is not from a peer-reviewed paper. It is oral tradition, the kind that moves from an old man's notebook to his son's hands to his grandson's workshop, and finally to a stranger like me who is willing to shut up long enough to hear it. They call it the everlasting oil. The idea is simple. On a stationary engine, the kind used to pump water, run a saw, generate electricity once every 6 months, you draw off about 1 quart of used oil. You replace it with 1 quart of fresh oil, to which you have added a teaspoon of ZDDP concentrate and a small splash of the lanolin mixture. The used oil that you drew off, you do not throw away. You pour it through a cloth filter, specifically a piece of wool felt about 1/4 inch thick, into a clean glass jar. You let it sit for 3 weeks. During those 3 weeks, the heaviest contaminants settle to the bottom. You then decant the top 3/4 of the jar back into a clean container. This recovered oil can be added back to the engine at the next 6-month interval, replacing a portion of the fresh oil you would otherwise add. In other words, the oil is recycled through the engine in a continuous cycle. Fresh additives go in, used oil comes out, and the used oil is cleaned and returned. The base oil itself never gets discarded. It just keeps working. I have seen an engine in a barn that had been running on this system since the 1960s. 60 years. The interior of the crankcase was as clean as a polished spoon, no sludge, no varnish, no carbon buildup. The old man who owned it opened it up and let me look inside. A mechanic who had inspected the engine the previous year told him the crankshaft bearings showed almost no measurable wear. Now I know what you are thinking. Your car has a catalytic converter. Your car has emissions equipment that the Amish generator does not have. You cannot run an engine for 60 years on the same oil if you are driving it down the highway at 70 miles an hour in a modern vehicle. That is true. But the principle still applies. A portion of your used oil, properly settled and decanted, is not waste. It is base oil that still has most of its life in it. Over the lifetime of a vehicle, using your used oil more intelligently can meaningfully cut your oil purchases. One last thing the old man said. Once a year, he added a small amount of powdered graphite to the oil. The same stuff you can buy at a hardware store for $3 a bottle. Graphite is a solid lubricant. It bonds to metal surfaces at the microscopic level and has been used as a metal lubricant since the 1700s. I am not a mechanic. I am a man who tried this on his own truck and watched the compression come back. Take it for what it is worth. I would not add graphite to a modern engine with a tight filter tolerance without doing my own homework first, and neither should you. But for the old stationary engine in that barn, the old man said his father used to call it giving the engine a soul. That is the everlasting oil philosophy. Castor oil for film strength. ZDDP concentrate for anti-wear protection. Lanolin for rust prevention. Used oil recycling to extend the life of the base hydrocarbon. Total annual cost, once you have purchased your starter supplies, is closer to the price of a single fast food meal than a single quick-lube visit. So here is where we end. You walked into this video thinking an oil change was a necessary cost of owning a vehicle. You walked in believing that the sticker on your windshield represented engineering science. You believed that the mechanics, the oil companies, and the maintenance schedules were all looking out for your best interest. Now you know better. You know, the 3,000-mile rule came out of the 1960s and was amplified by the fast lube chains that entered the market in the 1970s. You know, that AAA's own 2017 study showed synthetic oil outperforms conventional by 47%. You know that Jiffy Lube finally dropped the 3,000-mile recommendation in 2011 after a class action lawsuit in California. You know that in heavy-duty trucks, drain intervals of 25,000 to 50,000 miles are routine with proper oil analysis. And you know that for about $2 a year, an Amish farmer in Ohio applies the same principles to an engine that has been running since 1978. This was never hidden. It was just never sold to you. There is a difference. The Amish did not bury this knowledge. They just kept it in a jar on the shelf while the rest of us were busy buying the answer from strangers. If you are the kind of person who believes that real knowledge has been quietly pushed aside to protect someone else's profit, you already know what to do next. You know that there is more. You know that every part of your life, your home, your food, your water, your heat, your transportation, has been turned into a subscription, and you know that somewhere quietly in a barn or a kitchen or a basement workshop, there is a jar on a shelf with the answer in it. Now tell me something. Did your grandfather keep jars of mysterious liquids in his workshop that you never understood? Did you ever watch an older man do something to an engine that you could not explain? Leave a comment below and tell me about it. I read every single one, and the stories I get from this community are the reason I keep digging into these old notebooks and these quiet farmhouse kitchens. If this opened your eyes even a little bit, subscribe to this channel. This is not about supporting me. This is about joining a group of people who are slowly recovering what was taken from us, one jar at a time. Because next week, I am going to show you the Amish water pump system that runs on gravity alone, costs $47 to build, and has supplied fresh water to a farmhouse in Holmes County for over 80 years without a single electric bill. The plans came from an old agricultural pamphlet that you will not find on any modern government website. Until then, go check the jars on your own shelves. You might be surprised what your grandfather already knew.